that saying of, you can shoot yourself out of a Thursday, but I think I'd nearly taken that too far and played a little bit conservative.
Well, Minwoo Lee, a gaggle of players atop the leaderboard right now with so many other contenders. But there's one problem. Another guy at the top, Scottie Scheffler, shoots 3 under par. He blitzes the back 9. Can anybody catch Scottie? Can Rory come back after a plus 474 today? We have so much to get to. Updating our bets after the first round of the PGA Championship at Aronimink Golf Club. Chris Brees and Jimmy Reinman for the PGA Tour. Rick Gehman, great to be here this week joining us. Jimmy, you made a great comment before the show that this seems like the most wide-open major we've had in forever because there's no pacer at the top of this leaderboard who shot like a random 62.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, I'm here on site at Aronimink, and just looking at this leaderboard, they've been flashing a stat up here in the media center all day. I think there's about 48 guys within 3 shots of the lead. That's on pace to be the most in a major championship all time. So pure chaos on hand here, and what a flipping of the narrative we have on our hands in terms of a major championship test unfolding.
It's one of these situations, guys, where, Aronimink held tall all day long. It was resolute, right? I mean, out of the gates, there was active rain. We saw the skies open up. The sun started to come through a little bit, but with the way that the rough played, I mean, it was kind of unfair in a good way, right? You could draw a good lie, you could draw a bad lie, and you just kind of had to deal with it. That was the cost of missing the fairways. And these greens are spectacular, right? They're giving guys fits. They're fantastic. They're making Augusta National blush in some situations. So yeah, it is a really cool leaderboard when you've got so many guys near the top and nobody really went low.
We hope it stays that way. Jimmy, before we get into some updating bets here and updating betting cards, what's the vibe on site in terms of the weather, how firm they expect it to get, how much easier they expect it to get, or more difficult? What is everybody saying there on site?
Yeah, we really find ourselves in an exciting spot right now because going into the week, there was so much talk about, oh, this is going to turn into just a bomb and gouge fest. Even Rory himself in his press conference saying that was the only strategy to succeed here. We were looking at a potential 2019 winged foot situation. People were already ready to kind of write this major off. And then, oh, here comes the rain on Wednesday night to soften it up. We ended up only getting a light sprinkle for around 3 hours. I think it was like a 1/4 inch. And then the guys went off this morning to blustery conditions, sticky rough, greens that are seeing balls kind of run all over the place. And yeah, like we said before, we didn't really have that pace car round. We've seen so many times someone go out, shoot like a 65 or a 66 to plant themselves at the top of the leaderboard. And no, we just kind of have a group of dudes at 67, and people are really excited for how this course can evolve. With the forecast currently, it's supposed to get warmer throughout the entire weekend, with Sunday potentially being our warmest day. So we could get even firmer and faster. There's not a lot of rain projected. I think the highest it's going to get is about 15%. So we could see, I mean, there is potential that this could be the easiest it plays, which would be, we could really have something on our hands here.
All right, let's get into it, guys. We'll talk Scottie, but let's talk the contenders or pretenders off the top, Rick, who are either 3 under or 2 under par. None of these cats have won a major championship. That's why they have this title, contender or pretender. I would say at least 4 of these players are pretenders. Do you have any pretenders, Rick, on this list?
Oh yeah, there's certainly pretenders, and no offense to these guys, but you look at Steven Jaeger who ran out early here, and really the way that he did it, he gained a little more than 4 strokes putting, and this is very reminiscent to literally what he did in the opening round last year. I was looking up all his major championship rounds. This one's probably going to be about the second best major championship round of his career. His best was the opening round last year, where he did something very similar. He ends up finishing T70. So, I mean, it's just a little bit unsustainable for the way that he got it done. So, unfortunately, Jaeger checks that box. You could argue Potgieter checks that box as well. He was even better with the flat stick. Now, he has some elite skill sets that could come in handy over the course of the final 3 days, and he has won globally. He's won on the PGA Tour as well. But I think those two are certainly jumping off the page as a bit of pretenders, and I'm sorry to say that, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'll double-click on Potgieter a little bit here, because if you just kind of flipped on the TV and saw the leaderboard at midday, and you saw Aldrich Potgieter and Minwoo Lee atop the leaderboard, and you had those preconceived notions of hearing this as a bomb and gouge test, you might be like, oh man, this is going to get out of control. The driver's the only thing that matters. But to kind of unpack it a bit, Aldrich Potgieter actually lost strokes off the tee today.
That's crazy.
But he gained 5 strokes putting, which is certainly unsustainable. But I will give him some credit. At Harbour Town a couple weeks ago, he did shoot 3 straight 67s. So that could show that he's might be growing a little bit in his game. That's certainly not a place you can overpower. So I like to give him some credit that maybe he's putting some more tools in his bag, getting a little sidearm to go with his, main weapon of the driver. But 5 strokes putting is not something you're going to keep up over the next 3 days.
You're getting massive odds on most of these guys for a reason. Grazerman 115 to 1. The one player that I think is a true contender, and it's not just because I picked him to win on the round table and got laughed at this week by Rick. Minwoo Lee. I picked him to win before the tournament, and look, there's a long way to go, but Minwoo kind of found something on the weekend there at the Truist Championship. He had the low round of the weekend on Sunday. I believe it was a 65 or a 66. I loved that right off the bat because Minwoo gets so streaky. That was check number 1. And number 2, the guy, I believe, was 8th in strokes gained total on the entire PGA Tour, and about every player around him was highly accomplished, and most of them have already won this year. Minwoo has not. Minwoo is very close to just finding that one extra gear, and he found it today. He's got 3 more rounds to do it, Rick. So it's a little concerning because he has been a pretender in majors. He's been awful in majors. I want to see where it goes. My problem is the 18 to 1 is not a good number for me for a guy who's never won a major.
Yeah, it is tough. Now, no one's won a major until they've won one. I know that's a very, creative thing to say, but the idea is, I think it's 47 of the last 50 years we've had a first-time major winner at some point. Now, obviously, Rory won the Masters, so we're still looking for a first-timer this year. We've got like a dozen straight years where we've had a first-time winner. So it's more likely than not that we probably find somebody breaking through to get their first major championship win at some point this season. I'm with you, Chris, in the fact that I've invested in Minwoo Lee the last couple of starts that he's had because I've liked the trend that he's been on. I love the way that he has the built-in speed off the tee that Jimmy was referring to, and the fact that he is really starting to put together and mature in other facets of the game. You see it today. He gained more than a stroke and a half in all 3 of the tee to green categories, and he lost strokes with the putter, who's close to a 0. We have known for years that he is an elite talent, but he was very raw. He's starting to put that all together, and I'll tell you what, I would not be all that surprised to see him win this golf tournament. There's going to be 70 guys in the mix who have a chance to win this, but Minwoo Lee is certainly a viable option.
Yeah, and he's been making some noise recently on some kind of more difficult tracks. And when you look at those numbers from today, he's one of the few guys in that top group who are in the top 10 around the green. And we know the chef likes to cook around the green, and this Donald Ross course is certainly going to give him that opportunity, especially if things get more firm and fast and we see people with balls running off a little more towards the weekend.
Anyone else you guys want to talk about on this list? Going once, going twice.
I'll tell you what. I don't think he's a true contender, but Ryo Hisatsune is. I mean, he might be having the best season of any one of these guys on the board. He's fantastic from tee to green. He always has some putting troubles, but he's been a pop putter at times where, he might gain three strokes putting this week. He might lose 3, then 4 the next, so on and so forth. He is so accurate off the tee. He hits such a straight ball. He's going to be rewarded for some of his skill sets, and we will learn kind of what it's like for him to be in contention if we get to that point at a major championship, and what his hands feel like and what his body feels like. But I do love the state of his game.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
And I'll highlight Thigala a little bit too here. I mean, we saw him play so well kind of in the first half of this season to kind of climb his way up those Aon rankings. And especially that, I think there's that T6 when he was playing super well around Bay Hill. You could see some similarities there if the greens just continue to spice up this week. And while he did have his worst finish of the year last year at Truist, I think that he has kind of the game, at least with these 6 guys up here, he feels a little more dangerous.
Quickly on those 2 guys before we move on. If you don't want to bet them to win, you can get Sahith at DraftKings for plus 350 for top 10 and ties. That's big. And Rio is plus 300 for top 10 and ties. I know, a huge list of players around them, but if they continue to play well, They're already near the top. Okay, Rick, people are probably waiting to hear this. Who's your guy to make a move tomorrow?
Yeah, for me, it's very clearly JJ Spawn. You know, I liked him before the tournament started. I was really disappointed with the way that he started on Thursday. He bogeyed 2, 3, and 4, and he could have just pulled the ripcord. He could have ejected out of this tournament, and I don't think anybody would have given him too much beef for that. But what I saw after that was a lot more impressive, a lot more encouraging. The back nine played a lot more difficult, and JJ Spawn was 2 under, including birdies on both 16 and 18 to get this thing back to even par. We know the adage, like you can't win a golf tournament on Thursday, you can certainly lose it. JJ Spawn could have lost this tournament on Thursday, and now he is going to be just a few shots back of the lead with how many guys that we have tied at the top. Guys, I like the way that his game has been trending ever since his Texas Open victory, and I don't think that there's a reason to stop now for JJ Spawn.
There was a Rick, I think it was you were talking about how his putting was concerning for a very long time.
Yeah.
At what point do you think a guy is turning it around? Because Spawn's putting hasn't been great lately. It's been better than it was, but like at what point do you start to think this is a turnaround, or wait, maybe it's not quite a turnaround?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things with specific to JJ Spawn. You know, last year he was a fantastic putter, right? He has it in his DNA to roll the rock. It would not be a surprise to me if he got back to being like a top 30 putter on the PGA Tour at some point. But he talked a lot about coming into 2026 with expectations of trying to repeat 2025 and this fantastic year that he had, winning the U.S. Open, having a couple of very close calls in playoffs at the Players and in Memphis, and kind of almost expecting that again. And his 2026 started horribly. And he kind of had this soft reset right around the Texas Open. So I like to look at that as almost like a new starting point, Chris. And we've seen him putt a little bit better since then, or at least have good rounds, good weeks. I know that it's in there, and I think that he is close enough, especially with how the rest of his game translates to a golf course like this.
If everyone's doing their homework, they're going to go to PGATour.com. They're going to read draws and fades, and they're going to see Jimmy talking about Xander Schauffele. Now, granted, these odds are very low because of his name. Why do you love him tomorrow, Jimmy?
Yeah, so he is the second name on the leaderboard on the odds board right now, but you can still get Xander Schauffele at 10-1 around. And he shot 68 today, and it was just a classic, quiet Xander Schauffele round. You know, it kind of feels like we're in a time warp on Xander back to 2023 before he went on his run of 2 majors. He's kind of hit his reset on the place, on that like top 3 echelon place that he took when he had that rib injury at the beginning of last year. And it feels like we were waiting for him to kind of claw his way back. He called last year the worst year of his career. He had only 3 top 10s, and then he knocked off that kind of indiscriminate win in Japan in the FedEx Cup fall. But he's in the midst of a run of 5 top 12 finishes over his last 7 events, quietly, not making a lot of noise on Sunday, but just plodding along, making his finishes kind of where he was before he broke through for those 2 majors. So I think that just with how consistent he is as a major championship player, he finished T8 at the Masters last year, T7 at the Open in this worst year of his career, and he finished T9 at Augusta. So he's right there at 2 under. It's 10-1. If you're not going to go for Scottie Scheffler at that kind of disgusting price, I think Xander is right there ready to strike. And he's one of the few guys in that top group who gained strokes in all 4 major categories today. So I think Xander's right there. And it's almost like he's the forgotten man, but we know that this guy, I mean, he's got 2 of these things, and I think he's ready to slowly but surely, he's not going to blow up. Xander's not going to go out there and shoot 76. Mm-hmm. So I feel good about him at that number.
Just a PSA to the viewer, please don't bet Xander Schauffele for a top 20 at minus 240 this week. That is just irresponsible. We're going to draw a line at that top 10 number. You would get even odds. You mentioned Scottie Scheffler. We haven't talked about him yet. Is there a way that Scottie Scheffler loses this tournament? Yes, there is, because clearly he has still been searching for that serious magic he had for 2 to 4 years from 2022 to 2025. However, Rick, if we're going to continue to see him do some effortless things and continue to make the tough shots look average and still make pars along the way, I don't know how he's not in the lead even after tomorrow. Do you agree?
So this is obviously a great spot for Scottie Scheffler. I think the biggest argument that Scottie Scheffler doesn't win this golf tournament is like I mentioned, the 70 guys lurking, right? And one of these guys, they're all fantastic professionals. One of these guys getting hot for the next 54 holes and stealing a golf tournament, right? That can absolutely happen. So outside of that, Scottie Scheffler is going to just pick his way apart this golf course. And he didn't miss his first fairway until late in the round, in the opening round. I thought he was patient. I thought that when he did miss, he missed in all the right spots, which is very Scottie-esque. His distance control with his irons continues to look awesome. His spin control, maybe the most underrated part of his game, the way that he can kind of flight and hit different shots and access pins that other guys have trouble accessing. It's an unbelievable skill set. And he gained 3 strokes putting and still went out there and missed a shorty again, like on 14, I believe it was. So there's still ways this could have been better than a 67. And it's very likely Scottie Scheffler wins this thing. I loved everything that I saw from him in the opening round. To get him in this position through 18 is incredibly dangerous, but there are a lot of guys who are still vying for this thing.
Yeah, that's kind of the foil of this whole grand idea of this being such a great major championship test, is that we can just have this beautiful tournament on our hands. It's looking like it could be an all-time great. And you look up and, oh, Scottie's going to shoot 600 on the back, isn't he? Oh my gosh, he's going to be up by 5. It's just, everyone's going to turn off the channel. But yeah, it's hard. He was my pick to win this week. I know it's really going off on a limb there. I understand. But like you said, Rick, it's not just that he's the best ball striker. It's that he's the best strategist. And as this Donald Ross course gets tougher, his ability to pick the right quadrant of these greens and place his ball on the right side of the fairway is something that separated him over the last 3 years, and it's likely going to separate him again this weekend. But as we said, with this leaderboard being so bunched, the later the tournament gets, the less time there is for him to take the lead if someone goes out and has a white-hot round. We could still see that happen if maybe the wind does die down for a little bit and one wave gets an opportunity. Maybe someone early on Saturday goes out and just sets a number that when the wind comes back through, it's unsustainable. So, of course, there's a lot of factors that can go through, but it's hard to look past that guy. He hasn't finished worse than second since March, and here we are. But still excited, very excited for the weekend.
Quickly, before we go, 2 of the top names in the game try to combine 10 over par today. Rick, these are lottery numbers, especially on the right side of this board. Anything here catch your eye, specifically on Rory, what he could possibly do? He's got to make the cut, obviously.
Yeah, so boy, this was not a great look for either one of these two. Certainly more interested in Rory because one, I think he played much better, especially for a larger portion of the round. He coughed it up late. He made a bunch of bogeys coming in after holding it together for a really long time, and he still drove it well. Rory's weapon is obviously the driver. Bryson, obviously his weapon is the driver, but that was a disaster in the opening round. I mean, he was spraying it all over the yard. He was trying driver. He was trying 3-wood. He wasn't getting a lot of success from either one of those golf clubs. So I entrust Rory a little bit more to be able to turn this around. Plus 330 for a top 20 when he is only, I don't know, what is he, 5 shots out of that,
yeah.
Something like that at this point. Over 54 holes feels like a pretty good entry point for Rory, but man, we're going to need to see a magical one at some point. And for Bryson, it is going to need to be Friday.
62 for Bryson will get you that 1,700 to 1. Is that what that is? That's what that is.
Yikes.
Yeah, I would feel a lot more confident on the left side of that screen as well with Rory McIlroy. And we saw him 2 years ago at the Masters come back from shooting an over par round. And with it being so bunched up, I mean, he's only 7 shots off the lead. I mean, we know what he's capable of if he's able to calm down with the driver. I liked our friend of the program, Paul Hodawanik, wrote for PGATour.com today because Rory was the one who said that this course was going to be bomb and gouge. Well, he got gouged by the course today. So maybe a little bit of set himself up for failure on that one. But obviously, I trust Rory a lot more to be able to kind of find himself and find his swing over the next 3 days. Bryson's got a lot of other things to worry about at the moment, including his choice of jacket, looking like a Premier League head coach on the sideline there this morning in 50-degree weather.
Hey, we got to talk something about him, right? All right, we hope that helped. Guys, thanks for that. Good luck to everybody on their bets, and want to do it again tomorrow?
Let's do it.
Sounds great.